Okay, so now we begin the third and last session for this workshop today. In this session, we are going to talk on the topic prevailing facilitation mechanisms in DGH online system for clearances, HCC cell of DGH, ECC under chairmanship of CS, Government of India, PA or DUL area, carving from the block using DSS of FSI Dehradun, facilitation mechanism under DSF and HELP regimes. We have three presentations for this. The first presentation will be presented by Ms. Debjani Bose, HOD, Environment, Directorate General of Hydrocarbons. The second presentation will be put forwarded upon by Ms. Tinku Nischal, HOD, DSF, Directorate General of Hydrocarbons. The third presentation will be presented by Mr. Vikesh Jain, GM Production, HELP, Directorate General of Hydrocarbons. We welcome you all. May I now request Ms. Debjani Bose to start the proceedings.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a nice privilege to be here and interacting with the knowledgeable members of this stakeholder sensitization workshop and the respected operators without whom the DGH does not have any existence. Anyway, to start with, I request Social Friendly to share my presentation, please. Next slide. In this presentation, I will be talking mainly about the environment, the clearances and the licenses for which from DGH we are pursuing regularly and so as to ease out the activities of the operators and for timely clearance, timely grant of clearance and licenses for carrying out the activities by the operators of different regimes. Under this presentation, we will be talking briefly about the current scenario of upstream regulatory system in oil and gas sector, which of course Mr. Lahiri has spoken in quite detail. So I will not go into that detail because it will be a repetition. Now I'll talk about the challenges encountered by the operators and also by DGH in getting the license and clearances approved, the Empowered Coordination Committee formation, the background of formation of ECC, and what are the activities we are doing under the banner of ECC and what is the progress. We will talk about the formation, the constitution of hydrocarbon clearance cell at DGH, HCC, and then we will talk about the few points about the way forward for the future. Next slide, please. So there are many regulatory and statutory clearances and licenses required for the upstream oil and gas operators for carrying out their activities in offshore and onshore. Lahiri has already elaborated. Here I have brought few important things which we are regularly pursuing and which delay in grant of which causes significant delay in the execution of the project. So first is Petrol PL, which is governed by PNG rules 1959. Similarly, PML, this is also governed by PNG rules. Environment clearance and CRZ clearance, these are governed by Environment Protection Act 1986 and EIA 2006. CRZ clearance by CRZ Notification 2019, Forest Clearance, Forest Conservation Act 1980 and Forest Rights Act 2006. Similarly, Wildlife Clearance is governed by Wildlife Protection Act 1972. And these are the major issues which the Environment Department of DGH and also the Hydrocarbon Clearance Cell is regularly pursuing with different stakeholders. Next, please. So the difficulties, the main constraints what we find in grant of PL. Say in some places where MOD clearance from Ministry of Defence is required, where regular exercises for the defence purpose takes place, if the block falls in such areas, then getting the clearance delays the whole process of grant of PL. Similarly, intervention in the of the forest of the areas between states. If a block falls into two states, then the PL is sometimes granted for one state and some other state it gets delayed. Then also it's a hindrance for the operator to start work. There are procedural delays at central and state government level in grant. We have done delay analysis for the different processes, which detail I could not bring in this presentation due to paucity time. But we have found that significant delay takes place even at DGH, even at MOPNG in grant of PL, and we are carrying out different simplification processes like formulating the checklist so that nowadays after implementation of those measures the delay is being lessened. Delay in signing deed agreement in the state, that's a very that takes a long time. ENP operators response, sometimes it gets delayed and the grant of PL gets delayed. Similarly for PML, if the block has some forest land, then it is a prerequisite that diversion of forest land has to be obtained before grant of PML. The non-compliance with the checklist provided by DGH. Most of the time it so happens that the checklist is not complied by the operators. Sometimes there is resistance from the local communities. All these things delays the process of grant of PML significantly. Similarly, in grant of EC, all of us are aware that the public hearing takes significant time. Sometimes preparation and submission of EIA report already described by Mr. R. Bilal that while at the time of preparation and submission of the EIA report, if adequate care is not taken by the operators, then there are mistakes in the EIA report and then the queries cannot be answered and that delays the process. Of course, grant of EC by MOFCC also takes quite significant times in some cases that we have seen in the data analysis done for delay analysis. Or in the case of forest clearance, one major step in which lot of delay takes place is the site inspection by DFO, also the approval by conservator of forest, grant of FC by MOFCC. The procedure to take care of all these delays and to facilitate the ENP operators in getting early licenses and clearances, a high-level empowered coordination committee (ECC) has been formed under in May 2019. This was in pursuance to the resolution of Union Cabinet in February 2019 for streamlining and expediting the grant of clearances and approvals. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're clearly audible.
Okay. So this high-level empowered coordination committee consisted of Secretary Coordination and Cabinet Secretariat, then Secretary MOFCC, Secretary Ministry of Defence, Secretary Ministry of Home Affairs, Secretary Department of Space, and DG Forest and Special Secretary MOFCC, Secretary Ministry of MOP and Petroleum and Natural Gas, and DGH is the convener. So this is really a very high-level committee where under the chairmanship of Cabinet Secretary, the issues taken are given clear verdict how to resolve it. Clear directions are given. In this empowered coordination committees, till now 3 meetings have taken place. The first one was in July 2019, second one was in January 2020, third one was at September 2020, and the fourth is to be held shortly. Here, in this empowered coordination committee meeting, the special invitees are taken As Chief Secretary of concerned state, if there are some issues pending in the different states, the Chief Secretaries of that state is called the Principal Chief Conservator of Forest, PCF. If there are forest related issues are there, then Chief Wildlife Warden of the state is called, and any other relevant persons with the permission of the chair are called. And the issues, all those issues, what I have told in the previous slide, like PL, PML, EC, FC, CRZ, wildlife clearance, everything is taken up for different states in this forum. And this is really a very high level forum. Till now, in this 3 ECC meetings held, out of around 200 cases of pendency, almost 50% have already been resolved, and out of some 30 policy modifications proposed, around 25% have been effected, and another 50% are in progress. Now, if we see the third ECC, here I have this chart, we can see out of 50 issues, the 100 issues which were taken up in the third ECC meeting, which was held in September 2020, some 50 issues have been resolved, some 30 are in progress, 20 are still on hold. Now, finalization of, there are some policy issues which I will come later. Many policy issues have been resolved. The policy issues which are mainly considered are finalization of eco-sensitive zone notifications, particularly in northeast states, delinking hydrocarbon sector from mining, composite clearance for category A projects, amendment in CRZ notifications, land bank for compensatory afforestation. These are the issues where significant progress have taken place, like digitization of forest boundaries, public protected areas. That is another issue what DGH has taken up, for which password has been shared with DGH by MOFCC and the FSI for sharing, obtaining the data from FSI portal. The source raster images have been received from FSI, and DGH is evaluating how to convert it into vector data for uploading in DGH's NDR portal, so that this will facilitate that before issue of any block to any operator, the forest area available in this will be known, and operators will be in a position to fast track the application for getting clearances, for FC clearances. And for enhancing ENP activity in Andaman and Nicobar Basin, this is another issue, because there the exploration areas need to be enhanced, because for getting clearances from Ministry of Defense, Department of States, DGA is under constant interaction with those departments, and clear directions are given in the Empowered Coordination Committee meeting to those secretaries, Secretary, Ministry of Defense and Department of Space and all that. Exemption of exploratory drilling from purview of coastal CRZ notification. This is, we are expecting it any. No, go to the previous slides, please. Please go to previous slides. Yeah, keep in that. I am talking something more of the previous slides, but let it be. Delinking of EC and FC. That is another policy issue which we have taken up with and DGH has proposed amendment of Oil Mines Regulation and Development Act, which is under consideration at MOPNG, and lot of issues will be resolved once this amendment takes place. Exemption of Forest Act, Forest Clear FC Act, for underground oil and gas drilling operations by drilling from outside forest boundary through extended reach drilling or horizontal directional drilling. This is another thing we have taken up in Empowered Coordination Committee meeting. MOFCC has constituted a committee comprising of heads of research institutes like IDT Dehradun, Institute of Drilling Technology, and KDMIP Dehradun. These are ONGC's research institute, and ICFRE Forest Research Institute under MOEFCC. And this committee where DGH, ADDGH is the chairman, and report has been submitted, and this report has been appreciated by MOEFCC, and some further direction has been given by MOEFCC to substantiate the report with some additional data, for which a subcommittee has been formed to generate some practical data, for which some field visits in the real ERD sites will be undertaken in a short while, and this will be a big achievement, so that when we drill by extended reach drilling from outside forest boundary, the jurisdiction of HC Act will not be applicable. Similarly, exemption of fresh forest clearance during re-grant of PML. During re-grant of PML, it is requested that the already existing forest clearance may be extended. So a working group between DGH, MOPNG and the members of ONGC and OIL has been formed for providing suggestions and compiling the inputs related to PNG rules for implementation of this thing. Now, delinking of projects in hydrocarbon sector from mining activities. That's another thing, because the hydrocarbon sector activities are considered under mining activities for the grant of forest clearance. Lot of issues which should not be affected. A lot of laws and regulations which should not be affected on oil and gas exploration are affecting this. And once this delinking takes place, for which again this issue has been covered under the proposed amendment of ORD Act, which is under consideration. Merger of PLPL for granting one-time lease covering both exploration and production. This is another issue which is covered under proposed amendment of ORD Act. So these are the various policy issue modifications which we are carrying out. Here this chart you can see, these different states we have taken up in the third ECC meeting, and out of 100 issues at different states, these are PL, PML, EC, FC and wildlife clearance pertaining to the state of Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal, Assam, Gujarat, Nagaland, Puducherry, Tamil Nadu and Tripura. By now, after September 2020, by now almost 50% cases are resolved. So this is the way we are focusing, and we are taking up at different levels, and the issues are being sorted out. Constant DC meetings are being organized with different chief secretaries, the Department of Geology and Mines of respective states, in presence of the operators in that particular state, and regular interactions and follow-up meetings are being organized so as to get the clearances fast. Now, to have more focused approach, next slide please. Next slide. So issues I have already spoken. Let us go to the next. Yeah. So hydrocarbon clearance cell. This is another thing. Like DGH is currently facilitating grant of clearance regularly, as I have already told. But a compelling need to institutionalize the facilitation to be extended to contractor was felt, and a hydrocarbon clearance cell has been formed with the chairmanship of ADG, Environment and Clearances, with different HODs of different regimes in DGH, like PSC, NELP for NELP blocks, HELP, DSF, MOD, and all this. Hydrocarbon clearance cell has been formed. The TOR of the hydrocarbon clearance cell is end-to-end facilitation to expedite grant of clearance, facilitate grant of PL, PML, ECFC, wildlife clearance, escalate the bottlenecks and issues to ECC for further intervention, maintain dedicated IT-enabled database of coordination points with state central governments, review existing clearance structure mechanism. So constant endeavor is there through the hydrocarbon clearance cell, and for identifying the issues and resolving the issues, and those which are not resolved at this level are always escalated to the Empowered Coordination Committee level. Next slide, please. To have a more focused approach and facilitate the regular review at highest level in petroleum sector, a mini Pragati or Petro Pragati is a web-based platform in line with the e-Pragati portal, which is monitored by Prime Minister. This has been envisaged, and DGH is working on a very first track for establishment of the Petro Pragati platform, which will be an interactive platform having features of data management as well as video conferencing, etc. The various stakeholders will be the operators in the upstream E&P sector, the state government departments like Forest, Wildlife, SIA, PCB, Mining, and the Union Ministries of MOEFCC, MOPNG, MHA, MOD, Department of Space, and DGH will of course be there in the coordination level. There will be designated nodal officers from all these ministries and all the state governments and all that, and web link will be shared to all the persons. Regular meetings will be done in line with e-Pragati. DGDGH or ADGDGH will be taking the meeting in the monthly levels with different operators, different state chief secretaries, and at the MOPNG, Secretary MOPNG level, there will be quarterly review, and there will be 6 monthly or biannual review by the Empowered Coordination Committee. So we are developing this web-based portal for very first monitoring and constant record keeping and data analysis and presentation purpose. So we are expecting that within 2 months, 2 to 3 months, within the next quarter, this should be live. Similarly, what is another way forward in our plan is that increased virtual workshops. We are already having regular workshops with the, I have already told, with the state chief secretaries, the state government officials, state forest department, the regional offices, the geology and mines department, with different operators, different states and all that. So we'll have to enhance the periodicity of those virtual workshops. And we plan to undertake more number of field inspections and visits for in-depth underground for licenses and clearances, for building better relationship with the stakeholders that will ease out our operations and our activities. So these are the different activities and the approach being taken up at DGH. This is just for the appraisal of the operators. We are always there for you, and soon we will be coming up with new modules which will be really impressive and really helpful for all of us. Next slide. Thank you, please.
Thank you, Social Friendly. I hope I am audible to everybody.
Yes.
So I would just request you to start my presentation, maybe directly from the second slide. And of course, it is a very big, I would like to thank all the organizers for giving me an opportunity to speak at this forum. This is the brief I was given to speak on was facilitation being done to operators who have been awarded contract areas under DSF bid rounds. DSF is a very niche policy of the Government of India, wherein the newcomers, that is the new operators, are given a chance to enter the E&P space. They need not have technical expertise, but they need to have a desire to invest in the E&P sector and overall contribute to the domestic oil and gas hydrocarbon production, a sort of which was again in line with the Atmanirbhar Bharat. So just to do a quick round, in 2016 the first round was awarded, wherein we awarded 30 contract areas, and with a in place of more than 45 million metric tons. And we are in fact ready to commence production very soon in around 3 of them. 2 in onshore and 1 in offshore. DSF subsequently, buoyed by the success of DSF round 1, we had the second round of DSF. And in DSF, mind you, the discoveries which have been offered are actually discoveries which were lying unmonetized for many, many years. So they have their own technical challenges. And I think in spite of that, the fact that we will be able to bring soon 3 fields on production is a very, very big achievement. And another thing is that in DSF, the first offshore processing unit, the MOPU in Western Offshore, has come in DSF, and this is the first time in India that this MOPU is there. It is working in the Western Offshore waters. Similarly, as you can see, in round 1, 22 companies were awarded, and most of them, I tell you, are small operators or absolute rank newcomers. In DSF round 2 also, we could award to 14 companies. The contract areas were less, there were 24 contract areas, 14 companies, out of which once again a majority very, very small and new companies. Next slide. So as a result, because they are completely new operators, we required a much more higher degree of handholding as compared to the operators who are already existing. So what we started off by having this interactive portal. We signed the contract in March 17, and in that time only we had started this interactive portal where all the operators registered. The portal had one by one. If I could go to the next slide, maybe slightly I could show. And it had on its right side, actually, on its left side, on a scroll down form, all the steps that the operator was required to take, whether it was PEL, PML transfer, or the steps it required to take the environment clearances, the bank guarantees which required to be submitted, the operating agreements, the data, the work program. And in this portal, the operator can directly submit his queries, which we try to resolve at the earliest possible. The next slide, please. So I will just run you through briefly through the post-award activities. In DSF, since these are discoveries already, so there is no exploration lease. It is a direct mining lease, which is transferred from the existing operator, which is mostly the NOCs, to the fresh operator. Now, the transfer is applicable under the 17 of PNG rules. And as per this, because it was again, once again, I'm maybe at the risk of repeating, I'm telling you once again that this was the first time that even PML transfers were being done. So we had to publish a detailed step-by-step standard operating procedure. That is when the NOC would give the consent to DGH. Based on that consent, the operator would have to apply. Then that consent letter and the operator's application, DGH forwards to the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. The Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, depending on whether it is an offshore or an onshore block, either grants the PML or sends a recommendatory letter to the state government. And in this SOP, even all the formats are available, everything is available so that the operator does it very, very quickly. And DSF, the PML transfers, I must say, have been done very quickly. For example, in offshore, the time taken has been at least to a max of 1 to 2 months. And in onshore also, in majority of the states, excepting a few, I would not like to name those states, but excepting a few, the PML transfers are all executed in a period of 6 months. Not even 6 months, I think 3-4 months in the maximum. The outer limit is 6 months. But however, as Debjani has pointed out so beautifully in her presentation, we have set up this hydrocarbon clearance cell, where at the highest level, the issue pertaining to dealing transfer of PMLs, which is regularly flagged by the DSF group to the HCC. Regular interactions we hold with the state government officials for expediting the PML transfers, and the HCC also, at the level of the cabinet secretary, takes up these pending issues for early resolution. So the entire government machinery is geared up for helping the operators for expediting the PML transfers and grants. The next slide, please. The next slide, please. Thank you. Post the grant of the EML, of course, comes the environmental clearance, the consent to operate and consent to establish, which again are mandatory. But if there is an existing EC of ONGC or Oil India, and ONGC and Oil India gives an NOC that they have no objection to a new operator, undertaking petroleum activities in that area, then there have been cases, and on a case-to-case basis, the state government directly grants the consent to establish and consent to operate. This has been done in DSF in a number of blocks, which is a very, very facilitating measure. And DGH also on its part has taken up with various state pollution control boards for expediting the grant of the CTOs and CTAs, which again, it requires an approval from the MOEFCC, of course, but this process has been done and it is very, very quick. Then I would just like to read through what I just said right now. We regularly interact with the state pollution controls for timely grant of CTO, CTE. Then our teams are regularly holding meetings with the chief secretaries of the state government for early scheduling of public hearings. Now, public hearing is an issue, particularly sometimes because when there are panchayat elections and that, we understand that the public hearings do get inordinately delayed, but we are doing the best we can. And with our new ADG at their help, I understand that everything is taken up at the utmost priority. Again, for EIA studies, in case there is a requirement of secondary data, we also help in submission of the data from the surrounding blocks. If you require data from the surrounding blocks for preparing your EIA study, that portion is also expedited by us. Like I said, that in case of transfer of EC from earlier operators, we take up with ONGC and Oil India directly and on a weekly basis, and we ensure that the NOC from the no objection certificate from the earlier operators is given to the new operator at the earliest possible. And of course, we at our section, we regularly flag out the issues of delay in transfer of CTO, CTE to hydrocarbon cell, to the hydrocarbon cell, and the hydrocarbon cell in turn takes it up with the empowered coordination committee at the very highest level for expediting the ECs. The next slide. Other than EC and FC, especially for offshore, there are various other clearances that you also require, which would be the offshore, the vessels. For example, when right now we having a mobile offshore processing unit. So for that, you require that vessel comes from usually it comes from places say like Sharjah or Dubai. So from there, when it comes into the Indian waters, there are a lot of defense-related clearances. We have a vessel clearance management system, which is an online system where the operators would have to upload their survey coordinates and the technical details of the vessel on the portal. And these clearances are coordinated with the Ministry of Defense in the minimum possible time. I do not think in DSF there has been any occasion where the vessel has come and the vessel is waiting and the per day it is charging, but the clearance has not come. The Ministry of Defense expedites our clearances on priority. Similarly, for example, if there is expatriates are also required to come because there are a lot of activities during the commissioning of a vessel. There are a lot of activities which require technical expatriates to come. The DGH forwards the recommendations to the Ministry of, because for that you require the clearance from the Ministry of Home Affairs or MOHA. So MOHA clearances also we follow up, we expedite, and the MOHA clearances are always once again I want to say that they are granted on time. Other than these clearances, there would be the clearance which DG Sir pointed out, that the essentiality certificate are the no objection clearance, where the essentiality certificates for that once again you apply online and it is granted immediately. Whether it is even during the lockdown, there was no delay in essentiality certificate issues. The next slide, please. Now there was a disruption in the country due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Once again, since the companies which operate in our blocks are mainly small companies, they are MSMEs. They had a lot of financial crunches during the COVID-19 situation, and taking their difficult situation in mind, they faced a lot of difficulties. Keeping that in mind, and then once again the oil prices also crashed. So for a one time, the government gave a extended the timeline for performance of contractual obligation for a period of 341 days. Because in DSF you have to complete your work program within 3 to 4 years, depending on a case-to-case basis. But for this, an extension of 341 days was given. This was a special dispensation. Even as they were facing financial crunch, the government agreed to defer the applicable bank guarantee, which was due for submission or renewal in this period. That is in the period from March to February 21. That was deferred. 70% of that amount was deferred, and operators had to recoup that amount within 1 month of 28 to 21. Again, next slide. So the point which I want to make is that the government is through DGH, the government making all-out measures to help and facilitate these new operators, so that basically the intent is to improve the domestic production of the country. And the other facilitation initiatives which we take up, which once again, Dani has also said, that we organize regular workshops, we organize webinars for knowledge transfers. We have in DSF there is a special system for production monitoring, which we would be setting up, though I have not covered in my presentation, which is the real-time monitoring, which is the RTMS, where from the field directly the production data will come to us at DGH. So for that RTMS also we have held workshops regularly with the operators who are in the zone of production commencement, and other areas also on safety and various other, also in the areas of environment clearance. We are regularly holding workshops and webinars. We interact with with national oil companies, and in DSF one of the key features is that the facilities of national oil companies, especially in on land and in offshore, in both these areas, the operators can use the nearby facilities of national oil companies, because these are very small fields. So if operators to again develop these their own facilities, it's going to be extremely uneconomical. So this is a special initiative whereby the national oil companies' facilities can be utilized by these small operators, subject to a very, very reasonable charge, which is framed on very, very open and transparent system. And for a finalization of these tolling and processing charges also, which were mutually acceptable to both the operator as well as to NOC, we have played a very key role interacting closely with NOCs. Again, for we also facilitate interaction between the NOCs and operators, because the field belongs to the NOCs, the land belongs to the NOCs, the data belongs to the NOCs. So for smooth transfer of everything from the NOC to the operator, whatever help DGH is asked to do, we do. We try to do it at least. And for all the issues raised, again, not only do we have the MCMs, that is the MC meetings, we have quarterly review meetings. Our ADG development is available all the time to listen to their views, to listen to the operators and to sort out their views. So we are there, and let us all try to build a new Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon to all the participants of this workshop. I hope I am audible.
Yes.
So, I've forwarded the presentation, so it has to be cleared by self-handedly. Okay. Yeah. So I'm Vikesh Jain, and on behalf of Team Health of DGH, I will be presenting an overview of Health Department's role as facilitator for expeditious accomplishment of exploratory activities. Now, many domain experts have already very comprehensively covered various types of permissions and clearances involved, and how DGH and other government are ever ready to help out operators in getting the issues resolved. So in my presentation, I will try to bring out Role of help as a facilitator, covering entire gamut of activities, right from carving out of blocks to a grant of PEL, then to act as a facilitator for contractual compliances. So it's slightly off track because it covers pre-award process also, but I hope it will be for benefit of the participants who are not familiar with OLP process. Next slide, please. Yes, my presentation is in 4 parts: overview of help, OLP process, pre-award facilitators, and post-award facilitators. Next slide, please. So help was launched in the year 2016. Prior to that, we had NELP. So there was a paradigm shift with the health policy, and to summarize, there were 4 hallmarks of health. One was revenue share mechanism instead of production share mechanism. The second was freedom was given to participants to carve out their own blocks. Third was that it's an ever-going process. Our EOI submission window is always open, so there is no need to wait for launch of a bid round. You can always participate in the round by submitting an EOI any time of the year. And the fourth one was it was for the ease of doing business. So 3 rounds were launched under the health policy. Then there were further policy reforms that were notified by the government in February on February 20, 2019. And major changes were that now increased emphasis was given on work program rather than revenue share. And then our contract was made even more simpler, and we had done away with many more approvals. Instead of approvals, the operators need to submit information or submit data only for information purpose. And the third one was that the fiscal regime was made very attractive, and we had done away with revenue share in category 2 and 3 blocks. So far, 5 rounds have been completed, and in a very short span, we have already awarded 105 blocks covering an area of 1.5 lakh square kilometers. And right now, we are in the process of launch OLP round 6, where we'll have 10 blocks covering an area of around 22,000 square kilometers. And for the next round, we already have received 11 EOIs. Maybe we will merge these 2 rounds. It's up to the government, so we'll be launching new. Next slide. Next slide. This slide shows very succinctly the entire OLP process. First thing is that we have a NDR portal. So those who are interested in participating in OLP rounds, they first must visit the NDR, and it's a single authentic source of countrywide GNG data. They need to study the data. Based on the study of data, they have the freedom to carve out their own block or one area of interest. For that, they will submit an EOI. And those companies who submit EOI, they are given advantage of 5 marks while we evaluate the bid. Once we receive an EOI pertaining to an EOI 1 window, we launch a bid round. And it is an open bid round, open internationally competitive bid round. And those who have presented EOI, they are given an additional advantage of 5 marks. Then we evaluate the bid and award the contracts. It's like that. Next slide, please. Pre-award facilitators. Basically, we have 3 online portals: NDR, EOI submission portal, and e-bidding portal. The entire work from carving out of the block to the evaluation of bid is done. And the fourth one is the facilitation desk. You can drop us. This is open round the year. You can drop us your queries on the email given, and you will always get a prompt reply. Next slide, please. Now this is how the map on NDR looks like. Once you get yourself registered to NDR, study the data, and now you are a desire of carving out a block. So this is how the maps look like. It's a layered map. So it shows uh, availability of data like 2D, 3D, drilled wells, etc. Whether the area that has chosen, what type of data is available for that block. And then on the other hand, it will show you maritime boundaries, rivers, state boundaries, so that you know what type of, so that you know that in which type of jurisdiction you are carving out your block. And then uh, it also shows no-go areas. This is very important. No-go areas are mapped on the NDR portal itself. So when you select the blocks, you will know whether it's a no-go area. No-go area is whether it's covered by forest, wildlife, or it's covered by area barred by MOD, area barred by ISRO, projectiles, rocket projectiles. So right now here, right at the NDR portal, you are given this indicating that this is a no-go area. So all the bidders are advised that they shouldn't select no-go area. And now the area that you have to select, it has to be in the 10 into 10 minutes grid. The entire NDR portal is divided into 10 minutes into 10 minutes grid. And one grid is equivalent to around 336 square kilometers. So you have to select your area in the multiple of 336 square kilometers. And on the edges, you can select a smaller area also, which is 1 minute into 1 minute equivalent to 3.36 square kilometer. So a lot of this thing, no area, you know, here only, and there is a color code, so that will specify, like pink color code will specify its no-go area, green color will specify that it's already awarded area, so you will not venture into that, and white color specifies that it's an available area. So the entire map of India is covered like that. Next slide, please. This is about the data availability of NDR portal. The left side gives quantum of data available for the companies to study, and the right side is OL strict data. When we launch a bid round, then all the UIs are published on NDR websites, and there is a technical data book also pertaining to all the UIs. And then you know all the blogs, you know what type of data is available, and this data is available for purchase according to NDR selling policy. And then physical data room facility is available round the year. You just get yourself registered, take time, and you can visit our data room physically for carving out of the block as well as for study of the blocks on offer. And we are also trying for virtual data room facility, which is a work in progress. Next slide, please. Now, once you have chosen your area, you have to transfer this area to EOI. You have to log into EOI submission portal. So broadly, this slide shows what you have to do at EOI portal. The area that you have chosen at NDR, when you carved out your block, it is identified by 5 digits, a unique number. So that numbers you have to jot down, and then you have to transfer it to EOI portal. So that means your block, you can view your block at that portal. And other than that, for UI submission, you have to give some you have to upload some information like corporate information, consortium details, whether you meet the qualification criteria or not. The participation bond that you pay, you have to upload that, things like that. And then other than that, you have to pay a fee of 75,000 rupees. And then when you meet all these things, your UI will be with us and will evaluate it and accept it for floating the block for competitive bidding. Next slide, please. Now this is e-bidding portal. Once you have submitted EOI, so that block would be offered for competitive bidding. Now the different companies desirous of bidding, they have to log into our e-bidding portal, and this e-bidding portal is STP certified. Means it is secure, transparent, and its quality is also certified. And rest assured that your bid will be always confidential, and it's a single stage 2 bidding. And other than for bidding, you need to Indian company need to have their PAN numbers or otherwise CIN number, which is corporate identification number for foreign companies. And you also have to have a Class D digital DSC, digital signing certificate for login and bidding. The beauty is that between the launch of the bid round and the date of bidding, you can revise your bid n number of times. Once you have submitted, even then you can revise, and your updated bid would be your latest bid on which is submitted prior to the last date would be taken. So, next slide, please. Next slide. So this is how bidding is carried out and evaluated. Now, once the bidding is done and we have evaluated, we declare the winners. All this is transparent process, and bidders can come to DGH and see how the bids are opened, who has got what marks. All this is transparent. So once we award the bid, now we sign the RSC with the awardee, and now the real game starts. So. For post-award facilitations, I've divided into 4 parts: online PEL application portal, then liaising, processing of further operational clearances, and last, we are doing a very important work, how we are simplifying and standardization of RSC processes, so that the data that has to be submitted by the awardees, it is simplified and standardized, and it can be submitted online. Next slide. So we designed a PEL application portal. Once the awardee has signed the RSC, he will apply for petroleum exploration license. So if there are 2 parts, PEL for offshore part and PEL onshore part. Signing of contract is first part. Then DGH on its own will upload the map of the block as well as its coordinates. And then a mail will flash to operator and asking him to apply online for PEL application. Similarly, simultaneously a mail will flash to ministry also, and they also see what's happening on the portal. Thereafter, operator will feed requisite documents and make its application for PEL. And once the application is submitted online, it will be processed in-house and at the ministry. And PEL, then a request would go to, and then PEL would be granted to the operator by the central ministry for offshore PEL. Regarding onshore PEL, this is not granted by central government, they are granted by state government. So process is slightly different. Once upload the map and coordinates, operator will be flashed a mail, then he has to upload his part of document. Then a mail will flash to relevant state government authorities, and another mail will flash to ministry. Now ministry will open up its side of the portal and make a recommendation to state government that PEL should be granted to the operator. And then state government, many of the state government have been mapped to the portals. It's work in progress, and they have to sensitize also. So for online this thing PEL, simultaneously we are following physical this thing also, but over a period of time it will be online. So this is how you will grant it online PEL on the click of the mouse and everything online, and you'll get the PEL on your desktop. One thing that is the payment part. Payment part is not PEL fees is not yet mapped to the portal. It will be done later because it's a slightly complicated process. Many of the state governments will be involved at which account payment has to go. This is now even now physical. Next slide, please. So this is the documents that have to be uploaded. The documents that are uploaded by DGH and MOP are given in the left side, like block name, contract fee, map showing block area, total area of the block, coordinate, state, area and state, districts and the like. And on each part, contractor will upload the documents that are given on the right side. 13 numbers of document, and finally at the 14th, it's the security deposit and the PL. The receipt has to be uploaded. So after a due course of time, it will be online. Currently for offshore it is online, and for onshore it is both online and physical, but we are sure that after due course time it will be online, so it will be a fast and expeditious process of grant of PL. Next slide please. Now you see, we have already awarded 105 blocks, and the offshore PEL are very fast because it is done by at the level of Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, central government. They are very fast, and within days of signing of RSC, you get the offshore PEL. But so far as onshore PELs are concerned, they are granted by state governments, so there it's a bit time-consuming process. Some state governments are very familiar with the process because they are oil-bearing areas like Gujarat, Assam, etc. There it's not a problem. But once a bidder selects in some select the blocks in an area where the petroleum operations are not in vogue, it's a frontier basin like say in UP, so it becomes very slow because then the health team of DGH has to go to the state government officials and have to sensitize them that what is the PEL, what is the exploratory, what are oil and gas laws. So this sensitization we do with state governments, and then so it takes some time, but nevertheless the PELs are awarded. So when there is a delay in award of PEL, we liaise with the state governments, and this liaison is right up to from mid level to right up to the chief secretary level. But we make it sure that you get the PEL. I have also shown the status of PEL up to round 4. You will see that for offshore areas, there were 23 PELs were involved, and all PELs have been granted. This is up to for royalty rounds 1 to 4. And for onshore block, out of 81, out of 95, 81 have been granted. 14 are not yet granted despite 2-3 years of signing of blocks. So that these 14 blocks are shown on the right side. There are issues with the state government, and we are trying our best to resolve the issue and get PEL for the awardee. Next slide, please. Now this is already covered. Whatever was spoken for DSF and for other, it's relevant for OLP blocks also. It's about body clearances, vessel clearances, clearance of expatriates for Ministry of Home Affairs, things like that. Essentiality certificate. We have a separate department. It's processing around about 100 EC certificates a day. So all these your applications for EC is made online. It's processed for OLP blocks. It's processed by our health team, usually the same day, and forwarded to EC section. And within few days they give you EC certificate. It's all online and it's all very fast. And previous speakers have already spoken about it. So let's common to OLP blocks also. Next slide, please. Now what we are doing is we have analyzed our revenue sharing contract threadbare, and we have identified what are the processes that need to undergo for contractual compliances. So what we have done is we have categorized these processes into category A and B. Category A processes where information will be accepted on self-certification basis and there is no approval is required. Category B are the processes where the operator has to submit information. It's again on self-certification basis. There is no audit, but nevertheless we approve and we examine them and approve them. So the entire RSC, and you have to meet compliance with it at every stage. So at every stage for a process, you submit data to DGH. That has all been standardized, and we are all standardizing. It's work in progress. We are standardizing it digitizing it, and it will be uploaded on a portal. So the operator will submit the portal online, information online on the portal, and need not submit it physically. The benefits of this is this automated portal, and uh, so, approval would also be online, and then it would be it would be automated. Like many times you have to make calculations. So that calculation would be inbuilt. It would be there in the embedded software. You will just feed in the data and you will have the result. Similarly, for calculation of royalty and revenue, you just feed in your production data and the sales data, and then it will be all automatically calculated. So it's all designed for transparency and ease of doing business, faster approval process, and then it will not require feeding of the same data multiple times, because when you have fed, then that relational database software will capture that data wherever it is required. It will be automatically taken. So this is work in progress, but we hope to accomplish it soon. Shared these standardized formats to operators also, and we have received their feedback, and we are working on that. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is now this is how this is the list of the standardized formats in all 20 formats. The left side is self-certified, no approval required, and right side approval is required, but still it's work in progress. We are examining in detail, and what we are trying is, in some cases for OLP round 1, 2, 3, approval was required. Later on we simplified the process, approval was not required, OLP 4. So we are trying how we can bring about a uniformity in all the 4 rounds through some office memorandum and so through some order, and then so that this approval work is done away with where it is not required, and all the data is submitted for information only, and your self-certification would be sufficient to meet the compliance. So you can just read out the formats, and we have tried to cover the entire revenue sharing contract. And so once you follow these formats and give data in these formats, the contextual compliance would be there. This is how we are facilitating the post award the block, the work of the operator. Next slide. I think it ends.
The next date of the workshop is April 16th, 2021. And there's a feedback form in the chat box. So we request you to please fill that out. And in case you haven't dropped in your email ID in the chat box here for receiving the presentations, you can send a request to Mr. Lahiri, or you can send an email to events@socialfriendly.in.